Hello and welcome to the sunny South. I'm Uncle Dred coming to you from the Carolina foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's a beautiful day. Today I'm going to make a quick video just to tell you about the importance of four types of redundancy. Whether you carry a bug out bag, an everyday carry bag, a camping kit, a survival kit, what have you. The importance of redundancy is the difference between just surviving and actually thriving while you're surviving. The first type of redundancy that we have is a simple redundancy. It's also known as just a pure redundancy. It's easy to illustrate that because it's two items that are identical. They don't have to be the same color, but they have to have the exact same function, and they do what they do the exact same way. So it's a fairly simple concept. I'll illustrate this using one of the first things you want in your kit, something to make fire with, big lighters. This is simple redundancy. This is as simple as it gets. Each one is just like the other except the colors, and that doesn't matter. They all function exactly the same and do the same thing. That's simple redundancy. The same thing would go with cutting tools. This is two fillet knives. They're identical. This is identical redundancy or simple redundancy, whichever you want to call it. They both do the exact same thing the same way. They're exactly alike. Now, that's what you're looking for in simple redundancy. Simple redundancy is important because if you only have one knife and you break it or lose it, then you don't have a knife anymore. You're in big trouble. Same thing with fire starting tools. If you only have one fire starting tool and something goes bad with that, you're in trouble. So I carry several of these Bic lighters in my bag. That's my number one way. My number one go-to for starting a fire is a simple Bic lighter. The next redundancy is what I call a variable redundancy. It does the same thing, but it may do it a little differently or in a little different way, a different approach to accomplishing the same task. When you're looking at fire, that would be something like, here we go, matches instead of lighters. Waterproof matches with a striker and a container. Another thing with fire may be a fire piston. I don't recommend these things. They're really aggravating. They don't work well, but they do work. And as a backup, I keep one in my pack, along with some matches, along with a magnifying glass. This is a variation of a different way of starting a fire. Simple as that. Cutting tools, same thing. A variation of a cutting tool would be a machete instead of a knife. Even a different type of knife, a saw. Basically, you have three cutting actions. You have slicing, you have chopping, and you have sawing. So if a machete would do your chopping, an axe, a hatchet would do your chopping. Another knife that I do carry a filleting knife with me, but I also carry a side knife on my side. I call it a field knife. This is the SOG Seal Pup Elite stainless steel blade. It's not serrated. It's really nice field knife. It's heavy duty. You can baton it on light work. It's a very nice knife. I wouldn't baton it on heavy work unless I was in real duress. I carry a mountain machete for doing heavier batoning and a hatchet or an axe for other cutting. Also, you can carry a larger saw or a whole saw blade wrapped up, then put together a buck saw out of wood that you cut out wherever you go. Those are types of variable redundancies. We carry a lot of stuff with us in our packs, and I'll explain to you later why these redundancies are so important and how you can use them to assure that you can thrive while you survive. The other type of redundancy is a multi-use redundancy. There's two types of those. One of them is an implement can be used for multiple things. Magnifying glass. This is a great thing with that. I carry a pocket magnifying glass. You can start a fire with that in good times of the day and good times of the year, just by focusing the sun on some tinder. It is a variable thing, but it is also a multi-function tool. You can use this to see so you can pick out splinters, read fine print, read maps, start fires, a lot of things like that. You can use a magnifying glass for. Now the other thing is not just a simple item that has multiple uses. A bandana is another one of those. You can do all kind of things with a bandana, and most of you all know that multiple things you can do with a bandana. But then you get into things like multi-tools. I don't highly recommend multi-tools. Here's a little multi-tool. Cheap, inexpensive, folds out, makes a adjustable binocular. And they actually work well. It also carries a compass, signal mirror, magnifying glass. Focus the sun, start a fire. So this is a multi-purpose or multi-application type of redundancy. It's the redundancy on the magnifying glass theme. It's the redundancy on my field compass. I wouldn't want to bet my life on this little compass, but it's a backup to my field compass. It'll at least get me in the general right direction. And this signal mirror, you can use it. It's not as good as a top drawer signal mirror, but it will work. So that's some of those multi-purpose and multi-use types of redundancies that you can put in your kit, your backpack, your bug out bag. A lot of people carry a multi-tool. I really don't care for them that much. I'd rather have the actual tool. As far as cutting tools, I carry a side knife, I carry a filleting knife, I carry a saw, I carry a mountain machete, I carry a pocket knife and another pocket knife in my pocket. A lot of different ways to cut. You have a lot of variation in there. Then, but when it comes to multi-purpose, you get into multi-tools and things like that little gadget I just showed you, the binoculars, compass, combo things. What you find in those multi-purpose things is they will do a lot of things, but they do none of them well. Whereas the very specific tool itself will do what it was designed to do extremely well, but it won't do much else in most cases. A knife can be used as a striker with a flint and steel type of situation, or a ferro rod. I always carry a ferro rod also in my scabbard for my sheath for my side knife, and that side knife will work as a striker also for this if the striker gets gone. The last type of redundancy that you're going to run into is what I call a partial redundancy. That is a tool that it's an item that will partially replace some other item in your kit. It's like the knife. It will partially replace the ferro rod and striker, because the knife will act as the striker, but it won't completely replace that. So that's a partial redundancy. And you can look through your kit and you'll find those things in there. The magnifying glass is actually a partial redundancy for a fire starter, because the big lighter has a flint and tinder. It throws a spark and it sets a flame to the tinder that's in here in the form of butane. If you use a magnifying glass, you've got to have some tinder to go with it and get that little glowing ember to burst into flame. So there you go. It's a partial redundancy. So those are the four types of redundancies to think about. The pure redundancy or the simple redundancy, that's identical redundancy. Those things are just the basic things. It is having more than one of them. The variable redundancy is it does the same thing as something else, but it does it a different way. The multi-use or compound complex redundancy is one that does multiple things, and it will replace multiple items that you may have in your bag if you get in a tough situation. And then the partial redundancy. Those are the four types of redundancies. Now, where these come in handy to make the difference between thriving and actually just only surviving is when you're in the field and something gets broken or you lose it. Say the flint flies out of this, sometimes it will. Now I have no striker, but I have plenty of butane fuel. The idea of identifying all these redundancies is you immediately know, well, I've got something else in my bag I can throw a spark with and still use the butane in this lighter. Or the butane runs out, you keep the lighter because you can still throw a spark with it against some other tinder that you may have or you can gather in the wild. The idea of this is just take your bug out bag, your camping kit, whatever it is that you've got, that all of your gear is in, that you carry, or that your go-to bag, your everyday carry. Take that thing and just get everything out of it, lay it out there, identify everything in there, and then decide what do you have in there that would back that up if something happened to it. Do you have another go-to in your kit that you could use and replace it then? And by thinking in the terms of these four redundancies, you can easily begin to identify these things. Write them down if you want to. I've found that when I write things down, I remember them, but when I don't write them down, I forget them. Maybe just be old age, but it seems to work for me. But going through your bag, identifying the things that you have where those redundancies are and how you could utilize them before you get out in the field and you get in a dire situation where something breaks, it tears up, then now you got to try to figure out what to do. You've already gone through your bag and identified these four types of redundancies that you have in your bag and the relationship of all these items. Then you'll be ready for that situation when it comes along. I'm Uncle Dread, and I hope you learned a little something and can take this and make it useful for you. Until next time, remember to surround yourself with people that you love, work that you love, and a cause that you can believe in.